Thanks, everybody. This is a budget that's lacking vision. It has some clever components to it, but it's a great missed opportunity. I'd give it 6 out of 10. We are in the middle of a resources boom. This nation's extraordinarily wealthy, but instead of the Treasury recommended mining super profits tax, we're seeing a $22 billion squeeze in this budget, billions of which are unnecessarily targeted at people in Australia who deserve a better go. The $1.5 billion extra over 5 years for mental health is something that we've joined community campaigns, and I congratulate them on getting into this budget. It is way overdue. Although $490 million of that is in the fifth year, it's not in the forward estimates, and there'll be a long wait for that money to be brought into helping the mental health of this country. There's 54 million or so for dental health care, and the commitment in there to the Greens' long-held push for a new national dental health approach, which will be in next year's budget. But there's 500 million missing from renewable energy, the new economy. There's 500 million missing from regional rail in Victoria. But there's millions going into infrastructure to get more coal to the ports to be exported to the rest of the world to worsen climate change. In other words, there's a facilitation of transport for coal, but not for people in Australia. There's not a red cent in here for the urgently needed fast, efficient public transport in our cities, let alone for a boost to high-speed rail between the big cities, which Australia is so beautifully placed to have into the future. The Department of Heritage is cut by a whacking 30%. The Treasurer did not mention the environment in his speech, nor did he mention Indigenous Australia. The Greens would have made this budget sing. We would have ensured that the mining boom was brought into the nation's services and wasn't just lining the pockets of the big mining corporations who export tens of billions of that money each year out of this country. We believe that this resources boom ought to be money from it should be going into a sovereign wealth fund for the future, for ventures like high-speed rail. It's lacklustre, this budget. It is failing in vision. It's such an exciting time for Australia. The Treasurer is quite right. We are wealthy, and we've got a budget potential like almost no other country on the planet. For goodness sake, why is the National Gallery and the National Library being cut so that the gallery, for example, won't be having half a dozen of the potential shows of great art shows that the Australian people have come to love so much, coming out of its wealth of art for this country. Why should this great institution, the National Library, being cut at the margins? It just doesn't make sense. And these are the pride of our nation. And at a time of boom, they should not be being cut. And we will be working with the government to reverse the very petty cuts that we see forced by this obsession with a cut across the board at a time when more money is flowing into the country than in recorded history.
What do you think of the fact that there were no cuts that would proposed or thought of or predicted to middle class welfare, things like negative book gearing, capital gains, is all unchanged, family tax benefits remain the same or in some cases increased, and you mentioned before that this is hurting the people who least afford it, so what's your response to that aspect of it?
Well, really, I guess the government wasn't game to do that. While it took a gloved hand to the massive profits going to the big corporations, including the big banks, which are going to get a tax break. And that $18 billion to be lost out of the tax take over the next decade because of the failure to implement because of the tax break is going to hurt people right across the board. But 20% of that goes to 3 big mining companies, and another 12% of that goes to the 4 big banks who are posting record profits. There's so much could have been done in this budget that's just missing. I reiterate, this is a fantastic country. We are resource rich. We are seeing the treasures of the soil of this country being dug up and exported, but other people are making the money. And in our books, there's 37 countries with sovereign wealth funds, but Australia's not amongst them. Abu Dhabi and Norway are being much more responsible about their future than this government is, and the opposition indeed, in planning for Australia's future.
How soon will you be opening talks with Mr Swan and the Prime Minister about reversing some of these cuts?
We'll be like everybody else, watching the detail unfold.
You'll no doubt be seeking formal talks to try and get some of these things reversed.
Well, we'll be talking with the ministers about it, but we will be looking. We guarantee supply, but we don't guarantee that let me put it this way. We guarantee supply, and we guarantee that we can improve this budget, and we'll be strong on both those things.
Do you think they've got the balance right with the training and welfare package to get people into the workforce? Are you happy with the money they're spending on training, or do you think that you would want to change any of the welfare reforms?
Well, we'll look at the detail on those reforms, but some of them are harsh and punitive on young mothers, on some disabled people potentially, and we'll be looking at those to see whether that's essential at a time when there is take-home pay in the tens of billions of dollars for people exploiting